And that's good. Let me get this out of my way, and let me get this out of my way. And we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Good morning. Hey, Philip. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world today. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's Coach webinar. Hey, Tro, thank you for joining us. Nice to see you. As we always do, we will give everyone a few minutes to hop in, make themselves comfortable, get a cup of coffee, get a pad of paper and pen, ready to take copious notes from this presentation, and we will get started in just a few minutes. Hope everybody is doing well. As always, if you'd like to let us know where in the world you are today and where you are joining us from, it's always exciting for us to see that. Feel free to do that through the chat. Megan, you are in Houston, right? Or the Houston
I am
area?
in Houston. Well, the
Yes.
Woodlands, actually. Yes.
Woodlands, yes.
Yes.
Let's see. Philip is our Canadian, our international aligned team member, and I am in New Orleans, Louisiana, where it is a beautiful day. Hopefully you all are enjoying a beautiful fall as well. Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. Probably lovely there this time of year. We'll give everybody just a few more minutes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to the chat a document. Hey, Katie from Chicago, thank you for joining us. Let's see, how do I add a document to the chat? That's a great question. Let's see if I can figure this out.
I thought you would be the better person to do that instead of me. So.
Can I do this? Yes. Oh, but I think I just only added it for us. Let me add it for everybody. Those of you who are here with us already, there is a PDF that I have shared with everybody from our presenter. Just one more minute. We have a small group this morning, but nonetheless, hopefully an active conversation and a lot of learning, which is always our goal with these coach webinars. All right, we are at about 3 minutes past the hour. So why don't I go ahead and get this thing rolling? Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Eugene Turk. I'm the VP of Business Development at Align, and I want to welcome you to our monthly coach webinar for October 2023. Hope everybody is doing well, and thank you so much for joining us today. This morning, we are thrilled to have Megan Alarid with a presentation on calming the chaos, learning the 4 fundamentals to attracting, hiring, and retaining your ideal team. For those of you who may not be familiar with Megan, she is an expert in helping businesses scale and develop leaders. She has conducted more than 650 strategic planning sessions with more than 55 companies and teams using her own true organizational health methodology. She has more than 25 years of experience in the people business and a deep understanding of the unique challenges and aspirations that CEOs, founders, and business owners face. She is focused on helping organizations dispel the chaos and the drama that can stifle progress and making sure that leadership teams are equipped to scale their ventures seamlessly and efficiently. So we are thrilled and honored to have her present for us this month. As always, just one administrative matter. We want this to be as educational and informational for you as possible. Please feel free to pose any questions that you may have using the chat feature or the Q&A feature of Zoom, and we will either direct those questions to Megan during the presentation or hold them until the conclusion, where we always sort of leave 10 minutes or so for Q&A at the end. Absolutely. Again, thank you all for attending this Align Coach webinar, and we will now turn the microphone over to Megan. Morning, Megan.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this. This is a topic that I'm incredibly passionate about. So let's jump in and get ready. I love the saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. But I'll add, if you don't execute, you do nothing. And I really want that to resonate with you as you listen to this presentation today, because when you think about attracting, hiring, and retaining A players, it really all comes down to your ability to execute in everything. So I love this quote from Naveen John, who says, success doesn't necessarily come from breakthrough innovation, but from flawless execution. Our great strategy alone won't win the game or the battle. The win comes from the basic blocking and tackling. That get stuff done mentality, that bring it together so that we can truly, truly, truly achieve what we want. And I do believe that this is one of the biggest blockers that we have in business. So whether you are the CEO or the business owner or the founder of an organization, to the middle management, to that front line, this is one of the biggest challenges that we have, is actually getting the work done. You know, as visionaries, as business owners, as leaders, we set a vision for what we want and a strategy to execute it. We set the plan, we set the ideal, we set everything we truly want, and then we flip it over to our team to put it into play, to execute, to do what we really, really, truly have to have in order for that vision to come into play. But it breaks down somewhere in the middle. And it typically comes down to the people and how we lead them, right? How we lead those people. At the end of the day, really, truly bringing together the gap between strategy and execution, that is where the magic can really happen for attracting great talent, for hiring and bringing on great talent. And then, of course, retaining and developing those A players so that we can continue to execute that strategy that we do truly want, right? What you want, you got to get. What you want, you got to do what you want. So let me start here. I just want to ask a question of everybody who's on board today. I'm going to do a Slido. So let me just kind of set this up for you before I go to my next slide. Actually, I'll go to my next slide while I do it. The Slido is really easy. I want you to grab your phone, grab your device, or even join at slido.com. I want to just ask you guys, and I want your feedback on how that gap between strategy and execution shows up for you in your business. So whether you're a team member, whether you're a coach, whether you are the leader of an organization, how does the gap between that strategy, that vision, that what you desire versus what you actually get, how does the symptom show up for you? Awesome. Go ahead and put your thoughts in. If you've got more than one, add that in as well. I'd love to hear it. Poor communication is definitely one of those things. We typically see a couple of other symptoms. I'll dive into those in just a second, but I'd love to hear your thoughts if you're willing. Yes, lack of accountability is definitely one of those things. I'm not even quite sure accountability is anything anymore to really be thinking, if you think about the gap. Lack of clarity, absolutely. Go ahead, get your thoughts. And I see people typing. I love that. Thank you so much. All symptoms of that giant gap, right? Leadership sets this beautiful strategy. the team has to execute, and then there's that gap in the middle of where it just breaks down. No clear vision, again, yes. Poor communication, production of actual tasks, yes. Again, absence of culture. All of these things are real. Thank you so much for your participation in that. I love to hear the real symptoms that are happening in the organization when I talk about this. For me, what I see as a coach, and again, I've spent 25 years in the people business, researching, navigating, helping others navigate through people challenges. And these are the four main issues that come up for me when you see that gap in an organization. Again, the gap between strategy and execution. The first one is customer issues, right? When you hear customers aren't happy, or they're not getting the right delivery, or they're leaving bad Yelp reviews, they're leaving bad Google reviews. Those customer issues are a symptom of the gap. Product issues, again, not delivering on time, having issues, having waste, those type of things show up as well in that gap. Again, when we're not on the same page between the strategy and the execution. Process again, but I think some of you actually said lack of communication, lack of expectation. Process issues, again, symptoms of the gap. But the biggest one, and probably the most chaotic, if you will, is our people issues. People issues and they kind of look like this if you really think about it. I've got a couple of great ones here. Drama, number one, hands down. Drama, chaos, however you want to call it. Drama with the people in an organization. High turnover in an organization. You know, I've some people who I've talked to as prospects, 75%, if you will, turnover. Could you imagine just that? Again, low applicants. So when you put a job posting out there, the gap does look like you not getting the right candidates in because they're not attracted to your business in some way or form. Culture mismatches, again, symptom of the gap. You have expectations. They are doing something completely different. I always say undisclosed expectations can truly be a challenge for you. Bulldozers, again, these are the people who do everything possible to excel in their job, but don't necessarily fit that culture as well as we'd like. So that goes along with the mismatch, but they're the people who will bulldoze over anything to get their job done. We appreciate that, but really do want that mix if we can. No output, somebody mentioned that in their Slido. Absenteeism, getting people to show up, getting people to be engaged. Disinterest, again, big challenge. Lack of skill, demanding increases, right? Of course, financial increases. That lack of accountability was a symptom as well that you guys are all seeing. And again, no communication and the quiet quitting. In 2023, Gallup, if you know this poll, if not, I highly recommend you take a look at it. The Gallup poll is an employee engagement poll. They survey a boatload of people and ask them how engaged they are at work. And they have three categories of answers. Are you thriving at work, or are you truly engaged? Are you not engaged or quietly quitting? Are you loudly quitting or actively engaged? So this, when it came out for me, I was incredibly impressed because it was actually an improvement from 2020's number or 2022's numbers. But right now, again, if you really think about that gap between strategy and execution, it really comes down to what you see here, right? You see 23% of the population surveyed answered that they were thriving at work, that they were engaged, that they were enjoying what they were doing, that they were actively involved or sharing the vision of the organization. On the flip side of that, you've got 18% that are loudly quitting. These are actively disengaged team members. And these are the ones that do cause a little bit more of the drama. And it's likely because they're just not a great fit for the vision or the culture or the strategy that we've put in place. But that middle number, that 59%, again, this is a global survey, 59% of people are quietly quitting. So they're showing up every day, doing bare minimums. They're not engaged in the vision. They're not engaged in the process. They're not engaged in the client experience. And that is creating a huge gap. At the end of the day, when these people were surveyed, the quiet quitters, if you will, here are some of the responses that they came back with. So the biggest frustrations from them and why they felt that they were quietly quitting lack of involvement or enthusiasm. The managers weren't approachable, lack of autonomy, lack of respect, clear goals or guidance didn't exist. The recognition wasn't there. There was a lack of fair compensation or reward or incentive. Again, that lack of communication comes up. Isn't that crazy how it's on both sides of the fence? How business owners see it, how leaders see it, and how the team sees it. Lack of communication. And then, of course, too much overtime, which is a complaint that we do have when you're trying to do more with less people. To me, this is the biggest gap you could possibly imagine. It's almost the Grand Canyon when you think about it. And when you talk about these people, these quiet quitters, these engagements, if you will, it comes down to one thing. They were all asked, what could we do better? And the one thing they said was, we need to create better managers. We need to create better managers. So at the end of the day, if you want to close that gap, if you want to execute, if you want to attract better people to your organization, if you want to hire great people for your organization, and if you want to retain that talent, develop it, focus it, and create an entire team of A players, the request from the team was create better managers. Isn't that crazy, right? That is the simple answer. So over the past 25 years, I have looked at management. I have looked at all of the data, if you will, and I found that there are 4 things that are lacking in the managers in that gap. So again, you've got the people who are setting the vision, and then you've got the people who are executing the vision, and then you've got this center, if you will, of your organization. Anybody with a direct report or who directs work, they need to be developed into these 4 roles. These 4 roles, and like I said, anybody with a direct report and anybody with the direction of work or who directs work, hands down, absolutely must be better communicators, accountability coaches, leaders, and managers. Over time, if I went back 20 years, I could tell you that work was different, right? Work was different than it is today in 2023. 20 years ago, you got up in the morning, you got your lunch pail, and you went to work no matter what your job was. You worked for an 8-hour day, you left work and you went home and you enjoyed your family, and you had 2 separate lives, if you will. I always remember mine. I had a delineation. I had an hour train ride between work and home. And that was where I decompressed. And by the time I got home, I didn't have to work. I didn't have to do anything outside of being with my family, hanging out with friends, and just living my best life. But in 2023, the worlds are combined. The worlds are combined. And what we had 20 years ago of people who were just directing work and managing the system really now have to be the leaders of an organization, have to communicate. And I'll tell you, the number one request of every single person who was surveyed in that Gallup poll asked for more coaching. They asked for more coaching. And that to me is just a huge indicator of the opportunity we have to close that gap and really make a difference in our organizations. Again, if you look at every business out there, the difference between success and failure is their ability to execute. So closing that gap, bringing the team into the know, developing them into A players, that's going to make the biggest difference possible. So that's my passionate plea to you. I'm going to walk you through those 4 areas, those 4 roles that we have to be developing, like I said, for anybody with direct reports. So if you are a leader of an organization, if you are an owner of an organization, you need these 4 roles to be developed. If you are a mid-manager or a middle manager or a team leader, again, you need to develop these 4 roles as well. So what I'd love to do is take us through that self-reflection. If you haven't downloaded the PDF from the chat, please do that now, because I do want to kind of walk us through as we're going through this and allow you to really kind of self-reflect and reflect on your team as we're talking just a bit through this. So I'm going to click back here. Before we go through the exercise, I really, really want to just focus on the basics, the things that you absolutely must have in place for any of this to work. If you don't, it is okay. There are plenty of books, resources, coaches, everybody out there to help you get there. If not, again, there's simple webinars like this that you can dive into these 4 areas. First things first is you have to have a positive winning culture in your organization, or the desire to have one. And the difference there is an organization that, if you're just a churn and burn, get things done organization, and you do not desire a positive winning culture, again, you're probably incredibly happy with the results that you've got. But if you have a positive winning culture or the desire to achieve one, your team is going to make that happen, closing that gap between want and execute, closing that gap. So the other thing that I believe is imperative is a big impossible goal, right? A big impossible goal is really, really important, because you've got to have something to work toward. And this goal, again, you can go with Jim Collins' teaching on this, the big, hairy, audacious goal. You could go with a 10-year target if you're in that world. You could just go with a big goal, again, something to pull you 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is ahead of you, but something that you love. Because when you love it, you're going to encourage other people to love it, and they're going to want that as well. So again, positive winning culture and a vision with a big goal. So big to me is big, impossible goal. Think about that as you're setting those things. Benjamin Hardy's got some great teaching on the big goal as well. So third thing, basics. Again, just basics. You must have clear accountabilities for your team. At a minimum, I'm talking job descriptions that they are aware of. On day 1, when you sign your job description, that's usually the last day you've seen it, or the last time you've ever seen it. So I would encourage you, if you don't know what you're accountable for or what your team is accountable for, make sure that you're crystal clear on that. That is first and foremost. Depending on how you teach it, I like to get crystal clear on a mission for every seat in an organization, clear accountabilities for what's needed, and then a weekly measurable, just to ensure that you know what success looks like. Being able to quantitatively answer, did you have a good week, is incredibly important for every human that works in our organizations. And then last but not least, I really highlight, I say must, but you really should be working in some type of performance platform, right? Align is a great software. Love that, obviously. Scaling Up is a performance platform that I am privy to and I'm definitely in love with. EOS, again, great one. Anything out there that can truly help architect structured accountability in your organization to really change your trajectory towards success. That would be something that I would encourage you to have at a basic. If you don't, it's okay. Again, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today will get those things in place. So back to basics. Now let's talk about the document that you have in place. I see in the chat, maybe we don't have them. So what I would do is just say, write this down and work through the areas with you. And of course, we'll share the slides. So I love a 1 to 7 rating scale. 1 to 10 is great, but no one ever goes below 5 because it looks like it's a huge hit. 1 to 7, there's a defined middle, and you can kind of work your way out from a satisfaction standpoint. So 1 would be weak, and 7 would be absolutely perfect. Again, as close to 7 would be great, but we'll see. So you'll see that in this, you have a you line and then a team line. So I would, of course, always love for you to take these 5 areas in each of those 4 roles and evaluate your strength in those. And then, of course, your team's strength in those. So whether you're a member of a leadership team, you're going to talk about the entire organization. And if you're leading a functional team or a departmental team, maybe you're just focused on that. Just be crystal clear on which one you're doing. Okay, so 1 to 7 is the rating ratio for the 4 areas that we're going to look at. I'll show you what I mean, and you've got the PDF for you. So first things first, the absolute number one role that you must develop is your ability to communicate, or your communicator role. I have been training people for 8 years. I have had 650 session days. Every single one of those days, a topic is on the board about communication or a lack thereof. This is a game changer. I highly recommend you turn on your communicator role and be that person who brings the message to your team. If you don't communicate, you will complicate your organization. If you don't keep everybody on the same page, if you don't foster a culture of communication, you are going to have millions of different ways of doing things, millions of different things executed, and never the same thing. So communicate so you don't complicate. And the 5 areas that we look for here, like I said, the strength, when you're rating strength, do you have a culture of communication? Are you that person who likes to communicate back and forth and truly bring the team together? Is everybody in your organization in a communication cadence? Once a day, once a week, once a month, once a quarter, once a year. Are you in that cadence, whether you're individually talking to your team once a day, once a week, once a month, once a quarter, and once a year, or your whole team once a day, once a week, once a month, once a quarter, and once a year, or the entire organization, again, in that same cadence, talking to individual team members, opening those lines of communication for feedback, for tough conversations, for training, for growth. Do you have that communication cadence working in your organization? I would tell you 75% of the people who start working with me do not have this, and it is imperative that you do. Tough conversations happen and the results are positive. So with that positive winning culture, anybody who's having a tough conversation with a team member, the results are positive from that. You're not getting the surge, which is that really, really quick improvement and then dive off, if you will. You're getting positive results from those tough conversations. Number 4, I love this piece of communicator. It's everyone in your team is asking questions and providing feedback. I think for me, the biggest roadblock is when you go to your team and say, what could we be doing better? And no one says anything because they're just in the mood to just get the job done and go home. So if you can have this culture of communication and be that communicator, develop that role in your world, if you have direct reports or direct work, you're going to encourage people to improve and innovate and develop your product, your process, everything. And of course, the last role here is everyone in the organization shares the vision. Do you share it? Do you know it? Does your team know it? Do they know why we're pulling to that big goal? Why are we making the decisions? Are you communicating that to them? Hands down, this is a game changer. Develop your communication or your communicator role. You will make a great difference in attracting talent because you'll have a culture, a feeling of communication that everybody's in the know and people are going to know there's opportunity for hiring great talent because you're going to be upfront with them and you're going to ask questions of them. And then, of course, retaining because those A players want to know and be in the know. So communicator is incredibly important. Number 2, the second role, like I said, what everybody asked for was to have a coach, not a manager, not somebody who's like micromanaging their world, but somebody who is a coach. So this line, I absolutely love it. It's made a game-changing impact on people in my teams. Be the coach you craved to create the world you want. So I'm talking about accountability coaches, but really mentor, coach, anything. What I would love is just to walk us through an exercise. I see that there are people in the participation, and I'd love to hear your answers on this. It's great for the world. It's great for everything. I would love to know, pick a coach from your background. Pick a coach. It could have been your 8th grade basketball coach. It could be your Boy Scout club member or director. It could have been really any coach or mentor in your youth or in your early working days. What was it about them that made an impact on you? So you can go to the QR code with your phone or go to slido.com and enter that in. Again, this will only be active in the live, but go ahead in and just write, what was it about your coach that had an impact on you? Positive reinforcement is definitely one of those things. Again, go ahead and add it in if you can. I would love it. I'll share some experiences from me as well if we don't get a lot of feedback in here. Positive reinforcement, relatable, confidence building, tools that distilled wisdom into action. Ooh, that was good. You know, I asked this question of a team just a couple of weeks ago, and they were a team of, of executors, if you will. And I asked that question, then I turned it around on them and I said, what do you have to do to be that coach that you craved so that you can create people like you in the future? And it was an aha moment to them. We forget this, right? We forget when we go to work every day and we're developing our teams and we're talking about this, is that you will actually end up being the answer to who was your favorite coach growing up, or who was the one that had the most impact on you. You will end up being that answer. So when you think of confidence and mentoring and giving tools and being interested and taking an interest, these are all things that are incredibly important to the people who you lead. And they want this. They want you to show that you are giving into them and investing into them. So these are the things that I want you to look at as an accountability coach for your team. One, do you have a team of A players? On a scale from 1 to 7, how would you rate your team as a team of A players? Because if they're A players, you're developing them. You are giving them their all. And I'll talk to you about something called the law of thirds if we have a couple of extra minutes. But again, if you have a team of A players, it's because you coach them to be a team of A players. They didn't show up that way. You coach them to be that. Number 2, again, this is one of those great things, becoming a training company. I think it was Starbucks who actually showed their trajectory of growth for a period of time. And they started out in like 1986 or 1982, and their trajectory of growth was like this, and then it just shot up. And the difference, they say, was because they became a training company and they started investing in their people. And that really took off for them. They were investing, those people were investing back in them. And again, it just continued to grow and grow and grow. So being a training company is a trajectory shift for a lot of people. When you think of, hey, come in, do the job I told you to do, versus come in, let me train your skills, let me develop you. Again, the fear that I always see is, well, if I develop them, they're going to leave. It's wasted time. No. If you develop them, you're going to invest in them. They're going to invest in others, creating accountability, creating and coaching them into future leaders of your organization. And they will always be the essence of you, no matter where they go. So even if they do end up leaving from the training that you've done, you are still giving back to the world. You're still doing great things. It's likely they're staying and developing others because they want to be like the person who invested in them. Number 3, again, if rating on a scale from 1 to 10, do you ask more questions than you make statements? As a coach, coaching people is not telling them what to do. It's helping them find the answer. They know, they've seen it, they have the resources, but you being able to ask more questions will make the difference in their abilities to grow. So a coach does not give you the answer. A coach asks you the question so that you can get to the answer on your own. Now, this again is the long game. When you're coaching, it's the long game. We do want to make sure that we're investing in the people and not expecting miracles just because you told them the first time. So pull that communicator and coach together, and you're going to make a great difference. In your organization, does a 1% better everyday mentality exist? So in other words, when people are showing up, when your team members are coming into the team, do they have that I want to get better mentality? Are they constantly looking for interested information? Are they consciously seeking more data to get better at their role? And are you encouraging that as a coach? Are you encouraging that as a coach? And then the last one, which I feel is something that every person needs, is that when you are now in this blended world of work and home together, are you understood by your coach, by your leader? Are you understood by them? Do they know what your goals are? Are they helping you 1% better every day achieve them? Are they helping to develop you? And are you understood in the organization? So the question that I have for you here is, do you feel like your team members are understood? You would be the one doing the understanding. The first two roles that I've covered with you today, communicator and coach, every person I've ever surveyed over 25 years, plus the Gallup poll from 2022 and 23, every team member is asking for their middle managers or their managers, their direct reports, to communicate more and to coach them, not to manage them, but to coach them. So if you can elevate here, get to that 7 in these areas, my goodness, you'll make such a difference in the team and that execution and that investment. And of course, the product will be better. The customer issues will go away. It's going to make a great difference. It goes without saying that, again, that third role is leadership and being a leader. Leaders create pull, not push. So they're not pushing you to do things. They're not micromanaging you. They're not telling you what to do. They are creating, motivating, and really inspiring to pull you to where you're going. You know, Peter Drucker actually said that leadership is the art of developing someone's vision or raising up someone's vision better than they expected. So that is leadership and that leader role that you now have. Again, anybody with direct reports or anybody that directs work really, truly has to communicate. They have to coach their team and they have to lead to create that pull towards something amazing. Time after time, I can tell you that frontline team members, they come in and they believe they just are a number. They're not part of anything. And leadership creates that pull, telling them the vision, sharing it with them, ensuring they know why they exist, what their mission is, what their purpose is. It's incredibly important. So here are the 5 things that I'd love for you to rate for you. And of course, work on developing if you're not as strong as you think you need to be. First things first is you have a big goal and it's shaping your path, right? That big goal, that thing that's pulling you to the future, is it helping you make decisions all the way to that weekly basis? You know, in my world with my teams, I set a 10 to 15 year goal, that big, impossible goal. Then I get crystal clear on, hey, what does the next 3 to 5 years look like? What are some milestones we have to hit? Then what do we do this year? What do we do this quarter to make this year happen? And then what do I do this week to make this quarter happen? So that big goal, it's reversed engineered all the way to what do I have to execute this week to make it happen? So that big goal is shaping your path. The vision and plan are shared with your team frequently. Again, this goes to communication, but it is leadership and inspiration. Are you truly sharing the plan, the vision, the why we're making the decisions we are? You know, oftentimes somebody will come and say, I need more resources or I need another tool. And from a leader's perspective, after they look at the vision, the answer might be no. Well, you need to communicate that why and share that with the team so that they know and they understand the reasons the decisions were being made. Again, everyone in the business is a leader. This is something we all want to work to. Everybody in the business is leading towards that big goal. Everyone in the business understands our business model, our market, and our customer. As a leader, that is incredibly important. It's an education we do have to give. How does your business make money? How do they impact it? And how does it affect your customer and your customer's customer? Does everybody in the organization understand that? And then again, as an organization or as a team specifically, do you foster growth and alignment, keeping everybody on the same page, making sure that we're all executing, updating processes we need to, just making sure that we're there. So that's role number 3. Again, if you want to attract great talent, that gap needs to be closed. So when you think about the gap between strategy and execution, getting that closed, it comes down to communicating, coaching your team, and leading them. And then the last and final role that you have to develop is what we typically know as manager. But I look at it as totally different. We've covered all the people side of things. To me, manage the systems. Manage the systems so you don't have to manage people. The systems are the way you do business, the way you deliver a product, the tools that ensure that that product is working, ensuring that you've got a scorecard or something in place that's measuring you, a dashboard that you could use like in the Align software, making sure that you're managing those systems so that you're not micromanaging people. And again, big distinction there. In the past, we managed people. What are you doing? How are you doing it? Why are you doing it this way? That's got to change to be able to bring those two things together, the strategy of what we want and the executing of what we actually end up with. We've got to bring it together so that we can truly, truly manage the way that we need to. So from a manager standpoint, again, process and systems, are they documented in your organization, and is everybody following them? I have some stories I could tell you about people who spend boatloads of money documenting process and getting standard operating procedures in place, and then putting them on a shelf in like a binder like this, and no one ever sees it again, right? It's all dusty when I go, because I do ask my teams to present me a copy of their process, and it's as dusty and it's got to be wiped off by the time I get it. So think about that. Yes, does it exist? Is everybody following it? My side note nugget here is that it can't be on the internet somewhere. It has to be in hard copy. That's the only way they'll be able to get it when they need it. So if you got it, make sure it's in hard copy so that everybody can truly follow it. I mentioned this before, but I truly believe in it. Scorecard, scoreboard, dashboard, whatever. That is the diagnostic health tool for your business. If you don't have one today that measures weekly leading indicators to your big goal, get one, because this is where you're going to be able to see where things are happening, see where problems are, getting ahead of things quicker so that you don't have to manage people. You can manage the process and the system. So get that scorecard in place. If you're less than a 6 on that, we need to talk about it. Everybody understands what's expected of them. I said in the basics, do they have a job description? Are you crystal clear on the seat that they sit in? If you're not, they don't know. And now you've got undisclosed expectation. They're doing their way, not your way. And now you've got to manage the person. That's not the best way to do it. Manage the systems, manage the process, not manage the people. Lead the people, coach the people, communicate with the people, manage the system. Accountability is a positive in our business. Oftentimes when I sit down with somebody and I say, what are you accountable for? Like hair sticks up on the back of their head because that's an evil thing. Accountability is not an evil thing. It's a good thing. You're accounting for your success toward your big goal. So encourage a positive mindset around accountability in your organization. Again, it'll pull you to where you want to go, and it closes that gap. That creates an environment that people want to be a part of. It creates more A players. People are celebrated more because they're actually getting the work done. They're doing everything they need to. That's what we really, really want. And then, of course, at the end, clear priorities are set. Know your priorities. What should we be working on? What is the one thing I have to do today? What's the one thing I have to do this week? What's the one thing I have to do this month? What's the one thing I have to do this quarter? Get super crystal clear on that. Again, you're going to make a huge difference in your organization. So when I talk about the 4 fundamentals, the 4 things that we absolutely must do in order to attract great talent, hire them, bring them on, give them everything we need, set them up for success, and then retain them and grow them as A players. It comes down to our ability to communicate, to be that accountability coach, to lead our team, and to manage the systems and process. The chaos that we felt in the beginning with all those symptoms of, again, the symptoms in the gap, we can calm that chaos if we communicate, if we coach to accountability, if we lead and we manage. And that is my passionate plea to you. And I hope that you take this away from this seminar today. Please, please, please develop your abilities in these 4 roles if you have direct reports or you direct work in your organization. If you're a coach, build this up for others, because this is incredibly important to make sure that we are getting what we desire from our business and everything that we do. So I'm Megan Alarid. I'm a business coach. I've been doing this for 8 years, 25 years in the people business. I can tell you this comes from everything I have ever done, from putting people to work to making sure managers were on the same page. These are the things that are missing. And these are the things that we can put into place simply, cost no money, simply put into place to close that gap so that we can create a positive winning environment where people are executing, A players are getting recognized, and we're doing great things. That turns around to people wanting to work for your organization. That culture is emanating. It turns around to people staying in the organization and bringing their friends and continuing to develop a great thing. So passionate plea to you: communicate, coach for accountability, lead, and manage. That's going to calm the chaos in your world. So let's open it up to questions if we've got them.
Thank you, Megan, for an absolutely spectacular presentation. I thought your presentation was super clear on all of these things. For those that are with us, if you have questions, please pose them in the chat. I have a personal question. These are all great. These different roles as communicator, accountability coach, leader, and manager. Where do you begin?
At the beginning, communicate. If you do that, you'll make a great difference. That is the biggest issue that comes up every single session for people who've been working with me for years. It's a communication challenge. So if you're on the same page, if you're communicating, if you're getting those undisclosed expectations out, you will make a giant difference. Now, granted, there are always things that are appropriate for one team and maybe not another. Be crystal clear on that. And just make sure that if you've got something in your head, if you've got a question that you want to ask as a team member or as a leader, ask it. They might not be able to answer, they may be able to answer, but you've put it out there. Now we can start to work towards it. And again, if you've got a performance platform in place, they've got a way, the leadership has a way, and the team members and the team leaders have a way to store those questions, store those concerns, and be able to address them on a weekly basis. So they're either working in a weekly strategic meeting, they're working in some type of other modality to ensure that the questions that you have are being asked, answered, and then we'll communicate them back to you. So again, you've got the tools if that stuff is in place. If not, I can give you plenty of books that you can even start to make a difference on them. First things first, communicate.
One of the points on one of your slides was, and I can't remember which role it was in, but it was about making sure that everyone is asking questions and getting positive feedback. And one of the things that probably is true in every organization is there are the quiet voices. Sort of when you're having a team meeting, a department meeting, there's always those who dominate the conversation and dominate the communication versus those that tend to stay quieter and perhaps be just listening. And so how do we sort of extract those who might consider themselves introverts and be the quieter voices so that they are asking questions, sharing feedback, and really communicating with the rest of the team, and as leaders developing that skill within themselves?
So the way I do that in a session with a team is I ask the question or I pose a problem and ask them to write down their solution. So I give them space to actually think about it, write it down, and then I go around the room and have them report what they wrote down. That stops the extroverted team members from jumping in and answering right away and then quieting those other voices. It also encourages those quiet voices to be heard because they know we're going to go around the room and hear from everybody on our thoughts. We're not just going to listen to one person, or we're not just going to let the time be sucked up by one or two voices. We'll hear from everybody. So when problems are there, have the answers written down first.
You mentioned something about the law of thirds that you would sort of discuss if we had time. I'm not seeing a lot of questions, so I thought maybe if you could share that with us, that'd be wonderful.
Sure. So the law of thirds is something that I'm going to see if I can whiteboard this. Let me see if I can stop and get here. If I'm breaking everything, tell me.
No, we're working on the fly here.
Okay. All right. If I break anything, just tell me.
Nope.
All right. So the law of thirds is basically this. Basically says that no matter the community that you're in, so whether you are hang on, let me do it this way. Whether you are a team, whether you are an organization, whether you're a volunteer group, maybe you're a church group, whatever, you can take the population of that community and break it down into three areas. So I'm just going to do this, my beautiful artwork in Zoom whiteboard. So you can break it down into three areas. First area is your superstars. These are your A players. These are your great. That's great artwork. So you're going to want to take a picture of this. So they're superstars. They are the people who absolutely love your mission. They love your vision. They are excelling. They are doing the work. They are doing everything we absolutely need from them. Little to no drama. They're just excelling. And we absolutely love our A players, our champions. And then the other side of the population is our naysayers. Let me make their eyes a little bit bigger. So the naysayers are the people who actually probably foster or love drama more than anyone else. So they are that side that we're typically seeing a lot of the loud quitting in, or maybe even some of the quiet quitting in that base, if you will. These are people who don't love the vision as much. They're probably sitting in the wrong seats, maybe not a great fit for our individual culture, probably would be a great fit for someone else, but they don't really fit into our culture. And these are, again, the naysayers. And then you've got this population in the middle who's undecided. They don't know which way to go. Sorry, my mouse jumped all around there. They don't know which way to go. They don't know if they should be a naysayer, or they don't know if they should be a superstar. They don't know if they should be that champion of the organization. And as managers, as somebody with direct reports, we typically lean in here to try to fix the naysayers, right? We typically try to lean into that place to fix the naysayers. We give all of our time, all of our energy, all of our spare time is going there. Even our not spare time, we're like giving up other time to be here to try to fix the naysayers. Well, that actually creates a dynamic where this undecided population here actually becomes naysayers, right? We create 2/3 of our organization as actual naysayers because they are going to where your energy is. They're going to where you are. They're leaning to wherever their leader is, because we go for direction, right? Humans go for direction. And what's happening on this side is our champions are ignored. They're not being recognized. They're hitting their numbers, but nobody's saying anything about it because all the energy is going to the naysayers. So they end up leaving the organization. So as, again, the law of thirds, it says you have to spend your energy in a place where it's going to be beneficial overall. So I highly recommend from the law of thirds is that you spend your time and energy in this segment so that you create a pool to them, and you let these individuals who aren't getting the attention, who aren't good fits for the culture of your organization, but would be great fits for someone else, great humans, just in the wrong seat, they go find something where they can be truly happy, and you then create an organization full of A players. And that would be it. So the law of thirds, I've been teaching that for 20 years. I have no clue the origination of it. I know Lencioni talks about it a little bit, but he also doesn't know where he heard it originally. This is a great thing for us. When you think about leading an organization, where are you spending your time? And are you, by doing that, creating a population that is actually working against you?
Fascinating.
That's the law of thirds.
To me, that immediately resonates with almost customers and NPS scores. You have your promoters, you have your detractors, and then you have your passives in the middle. Should you spend your time getting your detractors to not hate you so much? Should you spend all of your time really focusing on your promoters and making them even happier and creating this army of people who are literally out there, speaking your gospel about your product and services, which will then hopefully pull those passives to become promoters as well. I've never seen the law of thirds explained that way. So thank you.
So I love that you actually just converted that to what the influencer world and marketing is today, right?
Yeah.
The influencer world is direct your attention to the people who are your champions. Direct your attention there. Fix your product if you have to. Listen to the feedback from everybody, because they're obviously using your product. but invest in your influencers, in your champions. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, last call for any questions. We haven't seen many come through, so if nothing else, what I will do is I will thank everybody for attending today's coach webinar. A big thank you to Megan for a really great presentation. You can learn more about Megan by visiting her website at heightenedleaders.com. You can also find her on LinkedIn. It's Megan Alarid. As always, we encourage you to use the Align software to implement some of these great business habits, create accountability within your organization, set priorities for the quarter. If you ever need assistance or more information, please be sure to ask your Align advisor or simply email us at support@aligntoday.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we hope that you will join us for our next coach webinar, which is coming up on November 16th, where we will be discussing exit valuations and exit planning strategies. So till then, we hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much, Megan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.